Welcome back to another episode of The Yard. I'm your host, Darryl Scotti, coming to you from Bigyardnation here at Pyramid Studios in Phoenix, Arizona. Super excited to be here with some great session players, Jonathan Witham, Felipe Carrillo, and Alex Chacon. Gentlemen, thank you for being here today with us. I've had a chance of working with all of you guys on the sessions that we did for 54th Street. And I'll tell you, the result was just incredible. And working with each one of you was an experience that each of you were in the studio at a different time. Felipe, we had you in one studio. Jonathan, we had you in this studio here in the bunker. And so first I want to start with Alex. Alex, tell us a little bit about how you grew your musicianship and how that kind of evolved to what you're doing here today.
Absolutely. First, I want to say thank you to Jonathan and Felipe for joining us on this show today. And to answer your question, musicianship to me is many things. It takes, there's a huge list, and the list is probably different for everyone. But for me, it comes down to professionalism, versatility, technicality, and attitude, and it's just the collective of all those things that really, you know a good musician that has good musicianship when you work with them. They come prepared. They add to the arrangement. They act. They show up. They're professional. They know what they're doing. They technically proficient on their instrument. And attitude, they show up. They show up and ready to play. And so I think that's kind of where I think of it as. What about you, Jonathan?
Yeah, man, it's a tough one. It's a tough one to answer, right? You're trying to put into words something that we do with our instruments. There's a lot of nonverbals. There's a lot of call and response that happens. I had a teacher years ago that said, hey, I have 10 things for you to help you be a session caliber professional musician. And you said, all right, number 1, listen. 2, listen. 3, listen. All 5 listens.
Listen.
Second half, 1, practice. 2, practice. 3, practice, and so on, right? 5 practices.
That's a great answer.
and he did that, and then it was also, are you able to do your job at the same time? Right? So for drums, time, dynamics, and can we help facilitate and create moments?
Yeah.
Felipe?
Well, for me as a bass player, it's more of listening to the other people, knowing when to play and when not to play. I can't be playing a really busy line if the singer's doing his thing. Same thing for the drummer. I have to listen to the drummer. That's when my musicality comes in, listening and hearing what everybody else is playing around me. Not playing over them, just playing enough where it sounds good. To me, that's what it is, just being prepared going into the studio.
You know, I've heard you say before, sometimes it's not what you play, it's what you don't play. And, and talking to Alex, what you said earlier about being prepared. I mean, if you're a metal player, if you're a jazz player or a country player, on this particular record, the 54th Street Sessions, there was a collection of eclectic songs. Each of them were different. And when you guys first got that tape, you probably said, what kind of song, what artist is this? I mean, he's got, songs that are jazz, songs that are hip hop, not really hip hop, but have that feel to it, songs that have a country feel to it. And it was like, and what you guys were able to do is to be able to wear it on your sleeve, come out prepared, and you just nailed every one of those songs, and it was a really great experience. So in terms of an important skill that you bring to your musicianship. Now, musicians, we all start off as, we're excited, we want to play music, we got a little bit of that music bug in us, we've got some talent, but where was it that you went from, your bedroom to the street, to the nightclubs, and into the studio?
Okay, yeah, I got that. So to answer your question, I think that, it took a lot of experience, like I said earlier, but practicing was key. I mean, I spent hours of time in my room, like just noodling and going out and playing open mics and going out and putting yourself out there and learning how to improvise. Improv is the most important thing any musician can learn. I think that the fact that I grew up in a house of musicians, and they were constantly having jams, and people would come over and play, and just being able to plop yourself into any scenario, know where you need to fit in, know where you want to put yourself, or know what the song needs, like put yourself into that position and be able to do it, effectively and musically. That was a key point.
So what I'm hearing is it's important for a musician to learn a song and maybe cover the song, but to be able to improvise and get into a jam session kind of prepared you for working in the studio.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. How about you, Felipe?
To me, it's, like what he said, a lot of practicing, listening to other people, going to jams, and just listening to what are they doing, what, like, in the sense of just try to put yourself in their hands, like, what are they doing to be that good, and just going back home and just, even if you're like recording it, watching it, and be like, oh, okay, that was interesting, why did he do that, and just trying to mimic if you can, but mimic it in your own words, just rewriting it in your own style.
Great answer, and you do that well. Jonathan, what's your take on that?
I would say vocabulary is huge. We talked about listening a lot, practicing a lot, woodshedding a lot of stuff, right? Vocabulary, being able to have almost copy and paste ideas. It's like when you first learn a new vocabulary word and then you're trying to try it out in the real world. And sometimes you misuse it, especially learning a new language, right? That's a brutal one. And then you try it out, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but practice makes better. Keep going.
Yeah, for musicians that are, guitar players and bass players and drummers, you guys have all of your own woodshedding that you do. Alex was noodling and doing scales and learning some theory. You were learning bass tracks and listening to how the bottom was laid out and the rhythm track and the drums. You were doing paradiddles and working, and probably, your background probably came from listening to guys like Steve Gadd, we're going to talk a little bit about later, and probably marching band and all of that stuff that you came up through school. And then you worked in the church. You do a lot of drumming in worship bands, and that's been a big experience for you?
Yeah. Play for CCV currently. Felipe and I both do that, and I've toured with a few Christian artists.
That's huge, because churches always have new songs that they're coming out with every week, and you rehearse them, and you're quick, and you play them, and there you go. So what collaboration? Let's shift here a little bit and talk about collaboration. That's a big thing for us here in the yard, and especially on this particular project, and it's been so huge for me. How is collaboration in music? What's your take on that, Jonathan, in terms of your collaboration in the studio and going about in a band or
Yeah, it kind of goes back to the vocabulary thing we were talking about. And are we talking about the same thing? So, sometimes when you're conversing, conversations naturally take different turns, and we pivot, and there's an evolution to the conversation. Like, say Alex and I are talking about the best sandwich spot in Phoenix, right? We're talking about sandwiches. We're really excited about sandwiches.
I'm getting excited.
We're all hungry, right. And then Felipe comes over and is like, hey, you guys, do you like NASCAR?
Oh, nice.
And then we're like, well, Felipe, we're talking about sandwiches, but sure, we'll pivot and talk about NASCAR. Okay, cool. How do we not do that, right? How do we say, oh, Felipe is like, oh, actually, do you guys like tortas? Oh, okay, that's a little bit more on brand. Okay, now we're kind of talking about the same thing a little bit, but it's different, and it's his own version of what we're talking about, and then it's that Venn diagram kind of a thing. So.
Right.
And that's how collaboration all comes together. So everybody's kind of talking a different language, different linguistics, and bringing it all to the table. In terms of this particular project, what was a highlight for you?
Yeah, so as far as favorite tune, favorite collaboration idea, we've all talked about this quite a bit, but working with singer-songwriters, It's one of those things that, especially for drummers, because most singer-songwriters don't play drums at all. And most of them don't even know drummers. They can't even like say, hey, play like this person, play like this person. And we're not going to come to blows after this. Like, it's fun when you can actually be friends with the people and you're not like just completely out of your mind angry and you go home and just complain the whole way. And
You're cool.
it's great. Yeah. But yeah, that's a fun one. And you actually did something really cool. I don't know which tune it was, but I was adding something with the hi-hat dynamically, and you said, hey, Charlie Watts. That was one of my favorite moments with you. And for me, Rolling Stones, I'm like, oh, omit the hi-hat with the snare. That was something Charlie did that was like unique at the time, and he made that really cool, and it let the snare have its own voice really nicely. And then I'm Proof. Proof. That one was hilarious too, because then you started calling out like Steve Gadd, and it's like, oh, okay, so nuance, color, great, I can do that.
So keep the groove the way we had it, play it like that, but here I want you to reach out.
Yeah.
And I said Steve Gadd.
And then I'm thinking to myself, well, this is more like Paul McCartney and Wings. So like Denny Sewell. I'm like, okay, so go into the hits, but then all the nuance in between, okay, ghost notes and little things, Steve Gadd. So that was, overall, I'd say like 2 or 3 of the tracks were just really fun to have you actually know, hey, play it like this.
That's musicianship right there. That is musicianship. Being able to, associate styles and be able to be that versatile to know, and have done your homework, studied, practiced enough, you know exactly, and that's what makes you an excellent session player. I mean, anyone that I've been around that has worked with you specifically, they're like, oh my gosh, like, this is insane. Like, it doesn't even sound real, but that's a really funny story. I like that.
Well, the greats are great for a reason. And when session players can come in and relate to something, and I really appreciate it. I know you keyed in on that right away. Let's pivot here. I want to find out from you guys, let's start with you, Alex, why collaboration is so important. We've talked a lot about it, but why is it so important in musicianship?
I think music collaboration is the most key thing in musical growth. It's getting together with people that you've never gotten together with before, playing music with them, finding out their habits, their dynamics, even their attitude or the technicality, all those things that I said earlier. Like, it's what is this person doing, and then what are the things that you like that you can take away from that person that you want to kind of incorporate in yourself, and what are things that they're doing that you're like, I'm not sure if that is really vibing with me, and I'm not going to do it that way, but you're aware that people do it that way, and you have that experience dealing with that kind of person. So when you come into a new situation and you're like, oh, okay, so they're kind of like this experience, and that's why collaboration is so important, because if you don't do that, then you're not going to get that growth. You're not going to get that knowledge, the knowledge of working with all these different people, all these different projects. I mean, this man right here, he works in country, and then he comes and plays in my band, and he can play all the Stevie Wonder licks and do all those things, but he's going on tour and for months doing country and rock and roll stuff. And I mean, that's collaboration. The way that you are able to do that is because of your knowledge and your experience, and all those collaborative moments, and reaching out to that musician saying, hey man, let's jam, or going and joining a project that maybe you were uncomfortable with, and then you jump in and you're like, all right, I am uncomfortable, but I can do this. So
yeah, agreed. Going into scenarios that you're not comfortable in, for example, I mean, I'll get a call to play a rock show. I don't really play rock, but I'm not going to say no. Why? Because that's going to open the doors for my musicality.
And you're a professional.
Of learning a new style, getting to know people, potential lifelong friends. You never know. That's the main reason. Always say yes to the gigs if you can. I mean,
this guy right here is the network library of musicians. Yeah, King. at least in Arizona. I know that you stretch further than Arizona, but you could ask this man. He knows 20 guitar players, 40 singers. I mean,
At least.
that's and he's the reason how I met Jonathan and our key player Jack, and other really great musicians. I mean, the network, like you're saying, I mean, that also is just so important for collaboration because once you start playing gigs, once you start putting yourself out there, and you're in 5 different projects, you need somebody to be able to cover for you. You need that person to be good at your level, and that's another just really important part about collaboration is the network side of
I
things.
was gonna say being students of each other too. There was an artist I worked with. We played a couple shows. It was one of those like fly you in and play, and we had maybe 10 minutes to sound check. Never played together, and then went to In and Out. He didn't have In and Out in Tennessee. He's like, I need to go get In and Out. I'm like, great. And then while we're there, he's like, what do you think of the new Coldplay record? I was like, oh. We're talking Coldplay. Okay. He's like, do you like Coldplay? I was like, yeah. Older stuff. He's like, okay. And so we talked about the record where Clocks is on that. And that drum part's a little syncopated with crashes and stuff.
So he was just feeling you out.
He was trying to be a student of me and figure me out. And so mid-set, one of his songs had this straight ahead beat. And out of nowhere, this dude comes back to the drum kit and goes, Coldplay. Double chorus. I went to that groove and it totally worked. He in the moment just completely changed the game plan. But I knew exactly what he wanted because we talked for a little bit over burgers and In and Out.
That's another songwriter, artist, drummer kind of a
Peace over
just
burgers.
saying,
Yeah. Keep the peace. Yeah.
A positive one at that.
Yeah.
We could talk about the negative ones. if
And
you
like
want.
going back to piggybacking what he said about the collaborations, you always want to be out there. You always want to be the chill one. You always want to find in his band. He has really cool people. I mean, I would have not called him for the gig if I didn't like how he was. He could be a great musician, but if the Hangs is just not vibing with me, it's a relationship.
wow.
Hangs.
Yeah, and I see now that just what Alex brought to the table after meeting him and starting to work on this record together, and what he's brought you guys into the mix, that it just goes that much deeper and further into it, and how there's these roots that get established with musicians coming together and collaborating. So it really is an important thing. So if you're out there and you're listening to these guys and you're inspired by this and you've heard any of their music, really chime into some of this stuff as you hone your skill and you listen and practice and really, really good stuff. So let's go back to the sessions and give us one of your favorite moments during the work that we did.
There was a song where I was blanked out. I just didn't know. I think I was overthinking it, and Alex just told me, dude, just go outside, take a breather. Remember that? I went outside, came back in, I was like, here we go. And it slowly started coming back. That's also important, just taking a breather if you're just feeling overwhelmed. That could also help, as it helps me personally.
I can totally relate to what you're saying, and I bet I can guess what session that was. I was on the road, and you and Alex did State of Mind together. I wasn't even there. And I told Alex, we had talked a little bit about it and what we wanted to bring down. And that must have been the moment, because when I came back and listened to what you did on State of Mind, it's like it was so far beyond what I ever expected that set. And it was so chill and it was so pocket. I bet that was the session you're talking about.
Probably.
So my story isn't really a story. It's just the thought process of, the collaboration that Darryl brought all of these different musicians together. I mean, it's just incredible. We played on this track, or I played on this track that Bill Dutcher wrote the rhythm for. I mean, it was a collaboration between you guys, Sweet Soulmate. And, it was just really awesome because I tracked on this song, and I think I might have did like 2 times through. Didn't really rehearse, didn't really, it's kind of organic. It's that, don't over listen, show up to the session, just play kind of thing. And I did my second take, and Darryl was like, yeah, you're not doing another take. And I'm like, wait, I really want to do another take. I really do. And he didn't let me do another take. I walked away from the session, came back, listened to it the next couple days, and I loved it. I loved the whole thing. It's actually my favorite song, Sweet Soulmate, that we did. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, to our listeners and our viewers, when you get a chance to listen to Sweet Soulmate, you will hear some John Mayer-esque type guitar work that Alex did without really writing the part, just listening and just playing and feeling. And that he's right. It was 2 takes. He wanted to do it again, and I said, no, it was magic. Let's leave it at that.
He might have had a tear or 2, but I don't know if we want to share that or not.
I did have a few tears, especially on
He was
Give It
feeling
Away.
emotional. He was feeling emotional.
Give It Away was one of those
Give
other
It
moments.
Away was that one, yeah.
All right, we've come to that time again where we got to wrap up this session. It just went so quickly. Thank you guys for coming out. We do appreciate that. And thank you for joining us in the yard. We had the pleasure of speaking with Jonathan Witham, who played drums on the session, Felipe Carrillo, who played bass, and of course the great Alex Chacon, who was our producer and guitar player. From all of us at Big Yard Nation, we hope when you're out there getting to wherever it is that you're getting to, that all of your dreams do come true. Visit us at thebigyardnation.com and join us in the yard. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok at Big Yard Nation. And don't forget to like us and subscribe to us here on YouTube. So until next time, this is Darryl Scotti. May God bless you. May He keep you safe. Peace out from the nation. We'll see you next time.